The broadcast was normal. Until it wasn't. No warning, no message, just a sudden interruption. And a face that wasn't supposed to be there. A masked figure appeared on screen, moving strangely, speaking in fragments, as if it wasn't meant to be understood. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it was gone. No statement, no trace, and no one was ever caught. That was 1987. For 90 seconds, someone took control of live television. And for 40 years, no one has been able to explain who did it. November 22nd, 1987. Chicago. 9:14 in the evening. WGN, one of Chicago's most watched news stations, is mid-broadcast. Sports anchor Dan Rowan is delivering the evening sports report. Mid-sentence, the signal cuts. Static. Then a figure appears on screen wearing a Max Headroom mask, standing in front of a spinning corrugated metal panel. No audio, just the figure. Erratic movement. 25 seconds. WGN engineers manually override the signal and cut back to Dan Rowan, visibly shaken, who says only, "Well, if you're wondering what happened, so are we."
Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I. Actually, the computer that we have running our news from time to time took off and went wild. So what we're going to do is start over from the top with the Bears.
Chicago assumes it's over. It isn't. 2 hours later, 11:15 p.m., WTTW, Chicago's PBS affiliate, is broadcasting an episode of Doctor Who. The signal cuts again. Same mask, same metal panel background. But this time, there's audio. And this time, WTTW has no manual operator on duty. They cannot stop it. For 90 seconds, whatever this person had prepared played out completely, uninterrupted, exactly as they intended. Then, the signal returned by them to Doctor Who, mid-episode, as if nothing had happened. Everyone who covers this story describes those 90 seconds, what the figure did, what they said, but describing what happened isn't the same as understanding what the footage actually shows. But watching the clip carefully, details emerge that change everything about how you understand this operation. The first detail, the background panel. Throughout the broadcast, the corrugated metal panel behind the figure spins continuously. But watch what happens at the moment a second presence enters the frame. The panel stops. It stops moving at the exact moment the second person appears. It means the panel was being operated manually. Someone was spinning it by hand, just off camera. When they stepped into frame, they stopped spinning. This confirms a minimum of 2 people physically present during the recording. The second detail, the glasses. The Max Headroom figure is wearing glasses throughout the broadcast, but those glasses produce no reflection, not from any angle, not at any point during the 90 seconds. Real glasses, even cheap prop glasses with actual lenses, catch light. They produce reflections, especially under any kind of filming illumination. These produce nothing. Either the lenses were removed deliberately to prevent the filming location from reflecting in the glass and appearing in the footage, or they were frames with no lenses at all. Both possibilities point to the same thing. Someone thought about what the camera would pick up before they began filming. They identified a potential forensic detail and eliminated it in advance. This was not a spontaneous prank. This was a person thinking like someone who expected to be investigated. The third detail, and this one changes the entire technical picture of the operation. The broadcast was pre-recorded. Watch the clip at reduced speed. The image quality is consistent throughout. No live capture artifacts, no real-time signal degradation. The performance itself is too constructed to be improvised under pressure. The specific moments arrive with the timing of something rehearsed, not something invented in real time while managing broadcast equipment simultaneously. This was filmed separately, at a different time, in a controlled environment, and then the recording was transmitted during the hijacking window. What that means is this. The person in the mask was not at the transmission location when the broadcast aired. The performer and the transmitter operator were separated. Two completely different people handling two completely different phases of the same operation, possibly without ever being in the same location at the same time. The person in the Max Headroom mask may have been watching their own broadcast on their living room television.
What makes this even more unsettling is how difficult this should have been. In 1987, there was no internet as we know it today. Broadcast signals weren't something you could casually interrupt. To override a television transmission, you needed the exact transmission frequency, information not publicly listed, known only to broadcasting professionals and people deeply embedded in amateur radio communities. You needed specialized equipment, expensive, non-consumer, deliberately sourced. You needed an elevated location with line of sight across the city, scouted in advance, prepared in advance, dismantled without a trace afterward. This wasn't someone experimenting or pranking. Whoever did this understood exactly what they were doing. They knew how to access the signal. They knew when to interrupt. They knew which station had no override operator on duty at 11 p.m. And more importantly, they knew how to disappear. They did it twice, 2 hours apart, on two different channels with two different transmission specifications. This knowledge didn't come from reading. It came from experience. From somewhere inside the professional and technical communities that handled broadcast equipment in 1987 Chicago. Authorities took it seriously. The FCC launched an immediate investigation. The Chicago FBI field office was involved. Signal analysis was conducted. Engineers analyzed the transmission. Broadcasters reviewed their systems. And that's where things stopped making sense. Because nothing came back. They found the general area, a high elevation location in Chicago consistent with the signal characteristics. They found no equipment, no witnesses, no fingerprints, no suspects. For years, the assumption has been that the investigation simply failed, that 1987 technology wasn't sophisticated enough. But that assumption misses something. The investigation found nothing because there was nothing to find. Not because the investigators were inadequate, because the person they were looking for had already thought about what an investigation would look for and had structured the entire operation around leaving none of it behind. The pre-recorded footage meant the performer was never at the transmission location. The separated roles meant no single person at the transmission site knew everything. The equipment was brought in, used, and removed. This wasn't a person who got lucky. This was a person who planned for the investigation before the investigation existed. Years later, people tried to figure it out. Forums, Reddit threads, frame-by-frame analysis of the footage. Audio engineers ran the distorted sound through every available enhancement tool. People who claimed to have worked in Chicago broadcasting in 1987 participated in discussions, adding fragments that felt significant and led nowhere. At one point, a post appeared claiming the author knew exactly who had done it. The J&K post. You must be familiar with it. But it was never verified. It was never debunked. It simply sits there. The closest the internet has ever come to an answer, and the least provable moment in 40 years of investigation. The collective intelligence of the internet, thousands of people, across decades, using every tool available, produced zero confirmed information. Not because the internet isn't capable, because the people who made those 90 seconds understood something nobody else fully grasped. The answer was never in the footage. And this is where it gets stranger, because most hijackings have a purpose, a message, a demand, a statement. This had none of that. No identity was claimed, no follow-up ever happened, no attempt to explain it. But look more carefully at the specific choices made inside those 90 seconds, and a different kind of statement emerges. The song. The figure sings a theme from Clutch Cargo, a 1950s cartoon known for one specific technique. Real human lips were filmed and superimposed over animated faces to simulate mouth movement. One of the earliest examples of a fake face on television. The hijacker chose to sing that song while wearing a fake face. This was not random. This was someone who knew the history of artificial faces on television and chose the most obscure, most specific reference available to comment on it while wearing one on a broadcast nobody approved. The name. During the broadcast, the figure mocks Chuck Swirsky, a WGN sports anchor by name. Not a national figure, a local Chicago anchor. This narrows everything immediately. This was a Chicago local, someone who watched WGN regularly enough to have a specific opinion about a specific personality. The date. November 22nd, 1987, was the 24th anniversary of the assassination of John F. Kennedy. The person chose a date, and that date has a history. Nothing in those 90 seconds was accidental. Every detail was chosen by someone with specific knowledge, specific opinions, and a specific relationship to the city and the media world they were interrupting. Somewhere, in Chicago or somewhere nearby, a person in their 60s or 70s has watched everything. They have watched the entire internet point every tool it has at their 90 seconds. And the clip has given nothing back, because it was never meant to. The investigation didn't fail. The internet didn't fail. The person succeeded. Whatever they wanted, to interrupt the signal, to make a statement, to say something the official broadcast would never allow, they got it. Completely. And then they disappeared back into the city that never knew they were gone. Somewhere right now, someone knows exactly how those 90 seconds were made. They know the location where it was filmed. They know what the distorted words actually said. And they have decided, for reasons that belong entirely to them, that you will never know. 40 years have passed, and, unfortunately, it must be said, he told the truth.
Like is their giant masterpiece.